There we are.
There we are. There we are.
Boom. Here we are.
Boom. Right there. What's going on, Monty?
It's a Monty Monday. Welcome
I love that.
to another episode, exciting episode of Get Found
and Be Seen.
Yes, sir. Ready for a wonderful Monday, a new month. It's a new start of the week, start of the month.
July already, huh?
Yep, we're halfway through. This is getting close. In a few weeks here, we'll have hit the 1 year mark, 1 year anniversary mark.
Yes,
indeed.
Isn't that wild?
Oh man,
it's
amazing. Time flies when you're having fun, they say.
That's right, and we're having fun.
Absolutely. Also,
Monty, just to let you know too. Well, I already told you that too, but we are also streaming. Excited about this. We're also streaming on LinkedIn as well. So shout out to our LinkedIn viewers as well. Shout out to everyone, all of our viewers and listeners. Shout out to you.
Everybody. Thanks for joining, even if it's on the replay.
That's right. That is right. And I'm excited about today's topic, Monty. This was brilliant, man. When you said this to me, I was like,
timing is everything.
Right.
And it's so interesting where things line up. Like I said, it's the first of the month. It's halfway through the year. We've been talking about how we both want to be rebranding a little bit and fine tuning, narrowing our niche.
Right.
A lot of ways you could describe it. And at one point we were talking to, I don't know if it was you or Steven or Anza. I don't know. I've been talking to so many people so much lately. the word pivot came up. And I just thought, oh, that's too good. And so I had to put it together into a methodology, as you
was it a dance move?
Well, it could be.
It could be.
Although it'd be cooler if you did it, because
okay. All right. all right. Okay, I'll take that one. Oh yeah,
yes,
this is brilliant. This was a brilliant acronym, though. I think I love how you said it's timing too. Everything's timing, because it's like the different stages in life, and it's just different stages in the life of your business. Same thing, right? Parallel. So it's very great that we're talking about this specific topic today.
Yeah, I think it's going to help us as we pivot in our business.
Right on. Right on. Well, hey, I say let's get into it.
All right, let's break it down.
Break it down like a move.
Step by step.
Step by step. So you want to hit it off, Monty?
Sure. First, let's talk about the P. Prepare. Preparation is crucial, for everything, of course. But with rebranding, I kind of think let's ask ourselves, what do I want to achieve with this new identity?
Right.
Because this is going to be a little bit of self-assessment, because this is fine-tuning. This isn't just, oh, I'm selling this product, I need to go shift to this other product. It's say, hey, I've been doing this kind of thing, and now I want it to be more of this kind of thing.
Right.
And maybe it's off this a little bit, but it's not a huge change. That's the pivot part. Right.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I find that it's definitely important to think about that. And it's, there are a lot of different perspectives that are out there. One, you got to see what's out there and what people are looking for sure. And you got to find out to see if it's congruent with you, your values, and all that good stuff. Because if you don't, you're going to be unhappy. Like, I've seen a lot of people, business owners, millionaires, who they're killing the game, but they don't look happy. And I'm like, no, I'm good. I don't want to do that. I want to be happy at the end of the day with what I'm doing. And I want to make sure I prepare so I can make sure I get into the right lane that I need to get into, for lack of better words,
Exactly. Yep. That was my brick and mortar business. It was just a small town, small business.
Right.
But as far as my level of going from hourly wage job to owning my own business, I was very successful. In a few years, every year I was increasing profits. I was making more in my business than I ever made at an hourly wage job. So in regards, I thought I was successful, but I wasn't happy. I got to a point where I wasn't happy. And that was because I didn't analyze and self-assess and realign myself, with the information. I just figured I'm successful. I need to keep doing what I'm doing. I need to keep doing more of what I'm doing.
Right.
And that's a pretty typical mindset.
Yeah. Yeah. You kind of, would you consider that kind of like, I'm curious, would you consider that more of getting on being on the hamster wheel in your mind, or?
Oh, absolutely. That definitely, because you're doing the same thing. You're doing the same thing, and one can, I would tell myself, it's like, oh, well, I'm doing different stuff. It's a computer repair, so everything's different. Technically, everything was different. I hardly ever did something that was exactly the same as the next thing. Even when the diagnostics was the same, it still took a different fix to do it. So there was a puzzle going on, so I could say that part, that I wasn't like repetitiously doing the same thing over and over and over and over.
Right.
In that regards, but drawing back and looking at the bigger picture and saying, what did I do to make money? And I would also tell myself, oh, I'm happy because I made somebody happy. I made the customer happy. So I found enjoyment in that. And that carries you so far, but where was my enjoyment?
Right.
I was just going through the motions. You provide a service, you make money, you make the customer happy so that they'll tell more people about you, so that you can do that more and more and more and more and more and more and more. Oh my gosh. Wait a second. I need to pivot. So I had to prepare. Let's not get too deep into that. That was just my little background of why I got to the point where I'm at, and so, or where I was at, and am at. We're in the middle of it. We're in the midst of it.
It's good to hear your story, though.
Well, that, like I said, that added context, to where I'm coming from with this whole pivot thing. I was burnt out there. I needed to shift away from part of it. Right. So that's what I had to ask myself. What is it that I want to do? What is it that I want? And I want to have more fun. I'm not having fun. I feel miserable. So there was the questions I was asking. How do I maintain my income?
Right.
And not do the stuff I was doing. So there's a lot of questions, a lot of self-reflection going on there. So I think that carries right on into the next thing of what you have to do.
Right. Right. The I investigate.
There it is.
I love that. It's like, I love how you talked about too, how this is where you become more of the detective. I love that word, and you're a detective into your own story. That's brilliant. And it's so important, though, because if you don't know thyself, man, you're in trouble. Or even if you don't even have to fully know thyself, but even at least be on that journey to seek to understand, as opposed to staying on the hamster wheel.
Yeah, being open. Sometimes it's not that you're closed necessarily, but if you have your blinders on, because you're just, it's like, this is what I do. Right. I'm going along, and society has set this pace. I need to help the customer. I need to serve my customer and get my money and find more customers and scale and build bigger. And I've known several business owners that sold their business and became an employee of the business because they just wanted to just go to work and be done and not have the whole responsibility list on their shoulders.
Right.
And so I look at that and say, well, why was that? Other people don't do that. So why was it that they did that? I'm investigating them. And so through their misery and their choice and pivot. They chose to sell their business completely and become an employee,
Right.
which luckily was so foreign to me. I never considered that option, but
Yeah.
it's still, it invoked curiosity.
Yes.
Why did they do that? Well, because their paperwork was such a headache, because they had so many people that would call them and say, I have a complaint about this. I have a complaint about, they had to go back and repair stuff at no charge. And so I just thought about, oh, well, could they have done things differently if they had focused on a different client, a client that saw value, instead of trying to beat them down on price and get the best quality, and that was a lot of it.
Yeah.
Because I looked at their competitors who were successful, and they were catering to a higher end of clientele.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like that's like next level too, though, Monty, because it's like usually someone would say, yeah, study out the industry and study out the industry standards. But, you were like studying out what made them tick and what they valued, which is huge. I mean, honestly, I think about, I haven't thought about that. I haven't thought about, but here's the thing. I do pay attention, like coming from the entertainment industry. I've always paid attention to that. And that's one thing I learned from my dad. Hey, always pay attention to your surroundings. Look at what other people are doing and look at what not to do. And I even had one coach say to me, hey, if people are going this way, go the other direction. I've heard different things like that. So that's helped me to be aware. But really, that's like a hyper focused on, hey, let's pay attention to what people valued and what their journey is and what their experience is. And the next step from in my mind is like you have that mind where you can kind of break things down step by step.
Computer programming.
And the computer programming, that's tricky, but it's so important. I find that very, very valuable. That's something I want to work on.
That's where I have my strengths to share. That part where I have broken it down, and so therefore I can present stuff to you. You're aware, but your brain isn't thinking in that format.
Right.
So once I present the format to you,
right,
then your awareness expands.
Right.
So there's just that validation of what I keep talking about sharing your experience.
Right.
Because you're providing new ways to look at things that other people might not have thought of yet, even though you're taking them for granted.
Right. And it's funny because I can physically do that. But to analytically do that in my head, to break down the steps, I kind of got to start doing it. And as I'm doing it, I can kind of picture and see. But some of it I can miss. And so you're able to get those details, which is great.
Well, my mind thinks on those details, but as I have recently done, I need to create a map. So that way you can navigate through all of this information that you're looking at, because otherwise you can end up going in circles.
That's right.
Reanalyzing things again and again, maybe from a slightly different angle, but you're just churning through the same information, and then you're not improving, you're not helping, you're not adding.
Right. Kind of going through the motions in a sense.
Right.
Yeah.
And the gerbil wheel, the hamster wheel. Right.
That's great. I love that. But I love this part. I'm curious. I wonder if this is my favorite part, the investigate part, because this brings up a lot of questions for me. It's self-reflecting questions.
Investigative questions.
Investigative questions. There you go. I saw what you did right there.
Yeah. And so while you're investigating, you've got to build this map, and what the map can do for you is it helps you evaluate.
Right.
So here's a V in your pivot is valuation. So that's so you can assess what directions, what options you have available to you. You can assess, what you are bringing to the table. And there's going back to the person who sold his business. You know, it's like, well, what was his unique set of skills and experiences and achievements that could have set him apart and attracted better clients rather the ones that nitpicked him to death? Or perhaps he needed to apply some of this stuff just to his hiring practices. Maybe it was he had employees that weren't giving quality work, and therefore they were having to go back and fix things at no charge. So just more investigation and figuring out, and then valuation, figuring out, well, where is it that's most important.
Right. I love that. Love that, man. That's a good one. And I love, you know, and I love how you talked about how your map, and you got to talk about your map too by the end of this podcast too. And I love how your map helps you is that tool that can help you to figure all that out.
Yeah, start just taking a simple mind map and creating a flow, a process.
But that's not like a simple mind map. That's like a journey map. That's like a transportation map.
The journey is a good description. You know, a flow and a process. You know, that's kind of what a journey is. You know?
Right.
So that's a good explanation.
Flow and process.
Yeah, we'll be touching base on that throughout here, because as I was just talking about it, it applies. It certainly applies in both, you know, anecdotal form and in real form, in real life.
Right. And it's like you going through it, even with the valuation process, you have to be nimble, because I know you're always talking about adjusting accordingly. You have to adjust according to what you evaluated. Is that right?
Yeah, I would say so. I'd also say that you have to be brutally truthful, because sometimes it's really hard to admit, you know, that I don't have any fun doing that.
Yeah.
Or just admit it. You can't get past the fact that it makes good money. I've analyzed some things that you know, it also depends on where in your journey you're at. Because I've analyzed things at one point, and it's like, yes, that's a good trade. I'm going to make more profit than I was before. And then down the road, I've looked at the exact same thing and said, wow, this is a time suck.
Yeah.
So it's again, a process.
Right.
An ongoing journey. You know, it's not like, oh, let's pivot, done. You know, when you're sailing on the ocean, you adjust your heading,
right?
You check. And the next morning, you look at the sun, and or you use your GPS, you know, whichever. But you're going to be constantly checking, because you got wind, you got currents.
Yeah. And it's interesting you said all that too. And that one thing I thought about too is you mentioned it's hard, and it's also scary. You know, it's scary, and depends on, you know, people's personalities come into play. Right. And so it's scary, and also it takes patience, you know, to navigate through it, but patience with yourself. I find that navigate through it.
Because there's that thing is that, you know, that analogy works okay. Currents and wind, it's things out of your control. But in life, there are many more things that affect that.
Right. Yeah, that's good stuff, man. That is good stuff.
So I guess the breakdown for that is you need to evaluate all of those options, so you know which one gives you the best ROI. It's a business decision. What's my best return on investment? And traditionally we're locked into that's a monetary thing, but there's more to it than that. your investment, there's more than just monetary, there's more than just time, there's emotion, there's other things that come into play there. And then the return also is not just monetary. There's the sense of accomplishment, there's the sense of well-being, there's just all other things that are important that are oftentimes overlooked because it is a business decision, and people think that business and life are two different things, and you have to balance them on the scale apart from each other.
Right.
But I think more of it like a recipe, and you need to balance them as you mix them together.
Ooh.
But you can't mix them, so it's not one of those things, you know, it's not where you took the blender in there and you puree it, you know, where, you know, you want to be able to taste the different flavors. You want to be able to, you know, Neapolitan ice cream maybe would be a better thing. Is like, okay, well, you got some separation, but there's also it's a deeper balance. A deeper balance.
What I think about is it's all an experience, and you are in you know, journey is another word too. And as you're going through this experience, how do you want to feel going through it? I mean, you know, again, I love how you talked about how, you know, people can separate life from business. And then, yeah, there are difference and there are places and things like that. But I love how you talked about it's a recipe because it's all part of your life experience. Because I tell you what, if I know for me, if certain things in my business affect me, it's going to affect other areas of my life.
Right. And vice versa.
You know, and vice versa. Exactly.
You know, more so, in fact, you know, because there's that balance doesn't mean 50-50.
Right.
There's another misconception. That could be a whole podcast.
Right there.
Right there. Misconception that balance means 50-50.
Right.
Because absolutely not. Because different things have different densities. They carry different importances. There's that valuate. You got to figure out how important certain things are, because a little bit of happiness is a whole lot of money. Although, again, during your journey, you may perceive your balance differently.
In different stages of life.
So it's not a right or wrong. It's not a 50-50. It's not a set thing. It's the valuation process.
Right.
Which carries us into the O. In the pivot. The orientate. Because now that you've evaluated, now you know what's most important. Well, now you got to align yourself there in this new direction that you've chosen. You know, you got to, and again, it's personal and professional during your rebrand, because you don't, well, for the most part, there's exceptions. There's always going to be somebody out there saying, well, I do it that way. That's fine. I'm not saying every last single person has to do it, but you know, when you do a rebrand in your personal life, you're probably telling your family, you're telling your friends, you're wearing your new shirt. It's what I got to do.
Right.
Did
you get it, by the way?
No. I need to get all my imagery first.
Got it.
And then I'll go into a creative mode and get a whole bunch of new shirts. But there's part of my rebranding, part of my pivot. You gotta get rid of the old and in with the new. And it's got to be across the scope. I need to orientate both my personal life and my business life and the way my journey, the whole journey.
Right. Yeah, it is. Wow. I love this episode, Monty, because it's so true. This is stuff that's not spoken a lot about enough, but it's so important because we all go through it, in my opinion. Well, a lot of us go through it, I think, and we just can't articulate it, you know. And sometimes these are some things that bug us, you know, to the core sometimes.
Well, and there's also so much that it's nearly impossible to see everything, especially from every angle.
That's right.
So You just got to methodically go through
Right.
what you have control of.
Right.
And what was the other aspect about that? So social media profiles, websites,
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Blogs,
so
videos.
start engaging with communities and networks that align with your rebranded self. So I was going to throw in that in my pivot, I identified, hey, I need to go in this direction. I've created this map that helps me see the direction I need to go in. And one of the things I need to do is I need to reach out to this person and invite them to co-author a book about this topic, because they know this topic from this other angle from where I know it from. And so it's going to be this just power pack.
Oh, dude, I can't wait.
And then, it's like, okay, now I have my map that I can use as my new solution to offer to people, and I can let go of the old me more. And that's another part of that journey. As you move forward, you can't drag the past along with you. It either has to change with you,
right,
or it has to be left behind, or you're not moving forward as quickly or as far as you could.
Yeah.
From experience.
No, that's great.
That is not well, I'll analyze this thing like I'm in college, because that the investigate. Yes, there is the investigate, but I'm investigating myself. It's my own journey. It's like, oh, well,
that's right.
Here's what I realized. And I also have many clients that I get to look at and say, how is their journey similar to mine? And that's where I come up with that. Oh, this guy sold his business. How is that different? How is that the same as what I'm going through? I could understand at first I could understand why he sold his business. Oh yeah, I could see that. There's a lot of headache going on with all that stuff.
Yeah.
I think maybe that's one of the first times that made me start thinking about that. Well, maybe I need to get rid of some of that stuff. Not sell my business, not get rid of the business. No, get rid of part of the business that I don't like.
Yeah. Like a shedding.
It's like the weed in the backyard. Let me just dig that thing up.
Yeah. I hear that.
It used to be a beautiful flower. It used to be a beautiful flower when we first moved in, but now, boy, that thing's been growing and taking over, and I just can't stand it. It's ugly. Got to get rid of it.
Get rid of it. Spray the weed killer now.
That is an interesting
for those
analogy.
who use it.
I don't know where that came from, but there you go.
Yeah. No, that's good. That works. That analogy works.
But just the orientate and working with other people. That's that. Not just other people that align with your new direction.
Right.
To help you move in that direction, because collaboration is powerful.
Oh, we've experienced that, right?
Absolutely. And so that's why it's like, hey, you're thinking about how you want to pivot in your business. I'm thinking about this, so that we're just going to do it together at the same time. We get to talk about it, analyze it, bounce ideas off each other. And even though our topics are pretty much different, they do overlap.
They do overlap. And the funny thing is, I don't think we intentionally planned this, Monty. It just so happened, I think.
No, because I've been going through the process for 2 years.
Yeah.
Of analyzing, figuring out, mapping. And I didn't actually create the map until 6 months ago. But during the first year and a half part, I was gathering the data that would go into the map. And since it's not geographical, it's psychological. It's not as easy to just say, oh, it's 40 paces and turn left, and
right.
It's these invisible connections of things. It's like you throw the powder up in the air and see where the lasers are.
Yeah. No, that's I love how you said it's psychological. That's just going through the journey itself. And I tell people this too, like, in my opinion, it's like 85%, 90% different people, but it's in a high percentage for a lot of people. It's the mindset wise, it's just hard to navigate through this stuff for many different reasons, various different reasons, but I think one of the key things is being conscious of that. Because if you're conscious of it, you could be aware that it's there. You got to get the tools, and sometimes you just got to go through it. You got to navigate through it and be patient with yourself. But I love seeing your journey and how you navigate through it, because you have something powerful, man, that people are gravitating towards, and it's really including myself.
Thank you.
And it's inspiring to see that. It's really inspiring to see that. So I'm excited, in your rebrand.
Well, I appreciate it. I'm excited on your rebrand, because I might have poked in a little bit of help there with the title, but might have, yeah.
You sure did, absolutely. And it's cool, because one of the benefits of collaborating with different people and sharing your stories, it's just like different things click faster, and it speeds that process up for you. That's a powerful thing about masterminding together and collaborating together. And you get to create things together, and you get to run your businesses together. It's powerful. So I feel like, this collaboration has helped me out, and you've helped me out with the direction that I'm going, and I could say even being the presence king, and it's been helpful, hearing your journey, and and even talk to you about my journey, and bounce off ideas to one another,
Yeah, that's probably the most valuable part.
Right.
There's so many times in life that this has happened to most everybody, that they talk to somebody and the other person doesn't say a word, but you resolve your question or problem or issue.
Right.
And it's like you've been stewing on it for however long, days. And then just by talking for a few minutes to somebody face to face, which wow. Note this, Carl. This is a topic for you.
Okay, let's go.
So, have you experienced that, where you've talked, you got a problem, you got an issue, you got a question, and you talk to someone and they don't say a word, but you come up with the answer, and you're so grateful that they listened, and you say just listening helped.
Oh, totally. And
right. But here's the thing. Here's your topic. They communicated with you.
Woo! I got you. Now, that's true. It's funny you said that, because I've been thinking about that a lot. The way we communicate, the many different ways we communicate with each other, right? The industry I'm in and the topics I talk about, public speaking confidently on camera, having a strong presence. And that's why I'm grateful I could go into that direction of having a strong presence, right? It's interesting, because I'm always thinking about that now when I'm watching shows and I'm watching TV, which I try not to watch TV a lot, but there are some shows that I gravitate towards, because I'm paying attention to how people communicate. And this is one of the biggest things I did being in the entertainment industry. And that's how when I was doing acting, and even I'm still performing, I'm always I'm subconsciously studying out people's gestures and things like that. So it's so important. So yeah, talking to someone and them just listening, powerful. There's the communication, the person just listening to you, whether they're leaning in or just nodding their heads or what have you. But for the other person speaking,
eyebrows raising,
eyes
opening
all of
a
it,
little bit, looking away for a split second.
Right. Even the stoic movement, though.
Yep.
That says something as well.
And depending on who it's coming from, can say loads more than someone else.
Ooh, I'm getting my note. Where's my note? I'm getting my note sheet out right now. I'm taking notes, Monty.
Good thing
yep, that's right. Right on the podcast. It's being recorded. I gotta type this in though. Yes. Cool. Okay, I'm typing while we're talking.
So the summary there of orientate, you evaluated your stuff. Now you got to head towards something. One of the most powerful ways to head towards a new direction is to collaborate with somebody that is already several steps, or at least one step ahead of you in that direction.
Right. Yeah.
Following it's the bicyclist riding right behind the semi truck.
Right. That's right. That's right.
But once you start going,
Mm.
what do you got to do next, Carl?
So once you start going, you have to test. It's important to test.
Oh, I thought you almost said tech there. Whew.
Tech. I know you're in tech mode, Monty. I think you're in tech mode now.
Oh, that's all tech.
It's good to be in tech mode. Keep that too, then. You got to test the waters before you fully commit to your new brand. You got to test the waters. It's important, to take small, calculated risks to validate your rebranding efforts.
Yeah,
Love
going
that.
all in. Again, there's exceptions when you're a larger entity and you are able to do the market research, and you have a ton of capital to work with. But when you're in my category of
In mine,
none of those things,
me too.
Just me. I'm not on the side of the road anywhere, but I don't have a ton of capital to just go out there and buy a bunch of advertising and buy a bunch of I'm going to buy 10 or 15 shirts, not like an entire wardrobe.
Yeah, I made that mistake before.
I don't have.
Not fun.
Luckily, I don't have a bunch of locations to change the signs and that sort of thing. Yeah. But
yeah,
if you're in that boat, just little small steps. So 10 or 15 shirts for me, one little website, and I'm going to write a book. I'm writing a book.
Right. I love what you said right there, because I was thinking too. So as you test the waters, now you do have to before you become fully committed, but you have to commit. So when you test, you have to commit to those small, like you say, half steps. Because sometimes, I found for me, and I found for clients too, when myself and clients have taken steps, they kind of tippy-toed. And, I think Myron Golden says this: success loves speed. So you do have to take action at the same time. So it's a balance to strike as you go, I find.
So here's an interesting analogy for it. Consider football. I'm not a huge football fan, but the basics are out there. Pretty much everybody knows the basics. You can run the ball, you can throw the ball. So and it's strategy. They've predetermined what play they're going to do, and the opposing team is trying to calculate and guess what are they going to do so we can put the best defense up. So in this circumstance, instead of going for the Hail Mary, you're on fourth down. It's like, if you have an awesome quarterback and the perfect receiver, and you've got the awesome play in mind, and maybe you do want to take that risk, but most often a team is going to go for, all we need is 2 yards. Just get in there and just get the 2 yards.
Right.
Get the first down.
That's right.
So there's that. Yeah. Okay, I did that. Now, am I in the right position? Is this the right direction? Do I need to change my play up? Right.
Assess.
Do I need to pivot again?
Right. And I love that. That's great. And that's where I mentioned too with the balance, because those players, they're going hard though, even with that little bit.
Right. That is the point. Thank you for pointing that out, because that is the emotional emphasis there, is that they may only be trying for 2 yards, but they are giving it everything they have.
There it is. That part right there.
Yeah. That is key. We're saying test, but you're testing at full throttle.
Bam. Dude, keep that as a title, please. It's important, because I've seen it over and over, even with myself, when I'm testing, right, and I'm going, but not giving full throttle, and you're not going to see the results that you would want. But when you go at full throttle and you're taking those half steps, you're being wise, and you're testing the waters, you're going to get better results, because you're giving your best effort.
Right.
And you don't want to give in to fear, because fear will jack you up. Fear will mess you up.
Hesitation.
Hesitation. And that's
Make
a
you hesitate
hesitation's
at the wrong moment.
that's right. And hesitation's an interesting word because there are so many different ways we can hesitate. It's not just, oh my gosh, let me wait. Even when I'm going at a certain speed, I can hesitate.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
I want to be careful with that.
And if you hesitate at the wrong moment, you can go over the handlebars of your bicycle. Because you hesitated, and then all of a sudden, oh, ah!
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's
If
right.
you had just kept on going, you would have went right across that hill. You would have went that bump. You would have went over the obstacle.
And sometimes, Monty, that's when you see the results. When you gone the extra mile and you've kept going.
Or conversely, you hesitated, and so therefore you crash and burn, rather than stopping or pivoting and avoiding the brick wall, the tree, the ravine. Because that's the point of testing, is
right,
to find out, is like what's up ahead.
Right.
Is this going to be fun if I do this again and again and again and again?
Right.
I mean, because unfortunately, that is what business is.
Part of the journey.
You know, and you can wrap it up all nice and say, hey, each job has its own individuality, which is preferable than, well, maybe not. I mean, it depends on your personality style. Some people would prefer, I just want to have the same thing. So it's just, I do it, done, done.
Yeah.
I don't want to have to rethink everything.
Right.
So
that's true.
There's that wonderful diversity thing going on.
That's right. That's true. And I'm glad you brought that up. That's very true. Everyone's different, but it is good to be conscious of this stuff. Because if you're conscious, you could think to yourself, where do I fit in with this? You know, what's my personality? How does that work for me?
Well, that's tying together to another future topic. It's context and perspective.
Context and perspective. Right. And I'm happy about what we just mentioned there too, because not to be redundant, but since everyone thinks differently, it's important to think critically about even what we're talking about today, because it shows up different for different people. Because and that's important, because the marketing that we see sometimes online is just like, this is the way and the only way, and do it now or you're stupid.
Right.
And
or we've tested it, and this many test subjects proves that this is the way that it works. And I love my analogy recently that it just hits the nail on the head. Is you can say, okay, well, this group of people I've identified, I've got 100 of them in a group. They're afraid of spiders and water. They got arachnophobia and hydrophobia. Okay, we'll give them the choice to go past the spider or jump in the water. Or pick up the spider, I should say. Pick up the spider or jump in the water, and you're not going to have 100 people do one or the other, because those two different things have different weights, different densities on the scale.
That's right.
And then there's the people that are saying right now, they're saying, yeah, well, how big of a spider is it? How deep is the water? How long do I have to hold the spider? There's a lot of stuff there that makes a big difference in that decision-making process.
Huge difference.
So perspective and context, just want to seed that, because that's going to be, because those are two different things and they play together and you need them both.
Right.
Future podcast.
Future podcast, but I'm glad you covered it here. That's important. Very important. Let's get that balance in there. That seasoning balance. Season the balance.
Deep balance.
Deep balance. I like that one too, Monty. That was good. That was solid.
Well, so, let's sum that up.
Let's sum it up. You thinking what I was thinking.
So pivot, prepare, investigate, evaluate, orientate, and test.
That's right.
That's instrumental in the exploration and execution of rebranding and all of the things that go with it. It's not just about changing how others see you, but transforming how you see yourself.
Right. I love it. And it's about growth, adaptability, and continuous improvement. I like that. You know, it's funny. The way I've, you know, and this is how I've been so successful as an artist, 36 years, continual reinvention, like rebranding, right?
Mm-hmm.
Continual reinvention. And so I love the continuous improvement. That's what it reminds me of.
We keep talking about a journey, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you're on a journey, isn't it more preferable to go to new locations rather than being on a racetrack?
Oh yeah.
That's interesting. We were talking about the hamster wheel. But it's like, no, I like the racetrack analogy a little even more, because now there's this speed thing involved. This, I got to get it done fast. I got to get the lap done. I got to get to the end so I can start over and do it again and again and again. Wouldn't it be more fun to take that race car out to places? I'll just drop it. Carlin, we're gonna come see you. I tell you, Grand Canyon, here we go.
Grand Canyon, let's go. Let's go.
I don't win, but it's gonna happen. We're manifestation.
Let's go. Let's go. That's funny. I think about the thought I thought about was when I take my kids. I used to take them. I'm not sure if you have one where you're at. There's a place called Great Wolf Lodge. It's a giant water park. It's so cool.
I'm sure it is.
It's really cool. So, you know, the kids are so excited about going, and we go and they have a blast. But after a day, can we go home now? This is boring. But it's amazing though. But I'm not sure if they intentionally make it like that. Maybe, I don't know. But I know that my kids can't take it after a day. So we can't go and do the same thing. You know, we gotta expand the journey. And you got to go to different places.
Right.
That's what I thought about.
Yep. That's typical. When a family goes on vacation, they more often go to multiple places. Okay, we're at this area. What are the different places that we can go? What are the different things we can see? What are the different foods we can eat? Whatever impresses them the most.
Right.
Again, there'll be the exceptions, the people that go there and they're like, we're here to do this thing. We go and do that thing 3 days in a row, and then we're out of here. Maybe that's the only thing there. But only thing that interests them. Yeah. Again, different perspectives. But the concept is still the same. They're going there and they're doing what makes them the happiest.
Right.
And so if we can apply that journey to our business journey, and find that recipe to mix them together and yet still retain their separate, distinct tastes. Yeah, I'm not a chef or anything, but I have some friends, and so some of that's rubbed off. Not that I can cook, just saying that some of that talk is rubbed off.
I love that. Distinctive taste. This is good, Monty. This was awesome. Well, Monty, I have a question for you. As I glitch. Max Headroom style.
Max Headroom.
That was cool. Max Headroom was cool. So if people need to understand, if they want to get more insight on this and they need help to go having direction on where to go to find their ideal client, where can they find you? And to find all things Monty.
All things Monty. Yeah, that's a good hub place to go at montyarmstrong.com. I'm working on getting that further updated during my pivot to reflect my new direction and my map. So that information is partially on there and will be evolving as I evaluate, orientate, and test until I get it right.
Love it. Love it. And also, if you need help having a strong presence on camera or on stage and having a strong presence, if you want to rock with charisma or rock the crowd with charisma, you can check me out. You want to check out carlaleen.com, where there's all things Carl, and you'll check it out and you'll see I'm also pivoting as I make my pivot come along our journey as we journeys as we pivot. I like that one.
As you orientate, grab a hold of someone who's a couple steps ahead of you there, and the presence king is definitely that man.
Yes, indeed. And until next week, I guess we'll see you soon.
Have an awesome
been listening. Week. Have an awesome week. You've been listening and watching another edition.
And all you Americans, all you US-based folks, have a good holiday, safe holiday. Drive safe, be safe.
Yes.
Don't blow off any fingers.
Yes, please don't. Please don't. Okay?
No.
We want you to tune in. All right, everyone. Take care.
See you later.